They call his name, but all eyes are on her. Welcome to another episode of I'll Tell You What, the podcast that's all love Black history. I'm Ashley, your favorite raconteuse, who shares these stories with you on Tuesdays now. But before we get into today's episode about the women of the draft, please SFRS, which means subscribe, follow, leave a review wherever you get your podcasts, even if you don't get your podcasts and you watch here, and share this episode with someone who watches all 3 days of the draft. All right, now let's start the show. All this was never just about football. Okay, I admit that was a little vague, but stay with me. Let's start with a little history lesson. When the NFL draft was created in 1936, the goal was equity, at least on paper, because it was 1936. The league wanted to curb the power imbalance where wealthier teams, more than likely, could snatch up all the top college players, leaving everyone else behind, everyone else meaning the suckier teams. So then the draft was born, a rotating order that gave the weakest teams first access to the strongest talent. It started in a Philadelphia hotel with no cameras, no audience, just white team owners and a stack of paper. But fairness clearly did not extend to everyone. At the time, Black players were unofficially barred from the league. From 1934 to 1946, the NFL upheld a quiet color line, excluding Black athletes together. Even after reintegration began, it was slow, uneven, and steeped in bias. Scouts and team owners routinely questioned Black players' intelligence, leadership, and character. Quarterbacks, the so-called thinking position, remained largely off limits for decades. Does that sound familiar? So for Black players entering the NFL, let alone being drafted, was never just about athleticism. It was always about breaking barriers, proving their worth, earning a place in a system that wasn't built for them to thrive initially. But let's fast forward to today. The NFL draft has become a full-on spectacle, a 3-day nationally televised event where young athletes are selected into football's highest level, one that is now more than 53% Black. It's a life-changing moment for these kids and their families. It is a true coronation for players, but also a collision point between private relationships and public consumption. Because the draft isn't just about talent anymore. It's about the narrative. And for the women in these young players' lives, their girlfriends, fiancés, and even their mothers, that moment comes with an immense amount of pressure. Social media turns these quiet human interactions into constant commentary. If a girlfriend is too emotional or too glamorous or too forward, she's doing too much. And if his mother steps in, well, she's controlling. And if the player doesn't choose one over the other fast enough, people pick sides and write their own stories and make it go viral. So what started as a fairness mechanism in the 1930s has evolved into a public crucible where success, Black excellence, and even relationship politics all meet under the lights for all of us to see. And because while the draft may be about football dreams coming true, it's also where family, fame, and femininity are put on full display. And nothing captured all of that quite like wide receiver CeeDee Lamb in 2020, when one quick phone snatch said more than words ever could. It was the Snatch scene around the world. I know you remember this one because on April 23rd, 2020, during the first ever virtual NFL draft thanks to the COVID-19 pandemic, wide receiver CeeDee Lamb had just been selected by the Dallas Cowboys as the camera cut to his living room. Seated beside him was his girlfriend, Crimson Rose, who he began to date while they were both student athletes at the University of Oklahoma. One of his phones began to ring, and Crimson Rose reached for the phone as CeeDee CeeDee was on the other one. In a blink and you missed it kind of moment, CeeDee snatched it back without skipping a beat. And child, the internet had a time with this one. From the Shade Room to Bleacher Report, everyone had something to say about this. The 2-second exchange launched thousands of takes because folks love speculation and folks love mess. They were saying everything along the lines of she was trying to go through his phone, he was texting his side chick, that's not even his girl, that's Trae Young's ex. Now Trae Young's like, now why am I in it? However, both CeeDee and Crimson Rose were like, calm down. CeeDee tweeted, quote, y'all really gotta chill, wasn't even like that, thumbs down emoji. And according to Crimson Rose, she was just trying to help. CeeDee was on a call with his agent when his second phone started to ring. She tried to answer it for him and he instinctively took it back. Foreshadowing his skills with the Cowboys, maybe? I don't know, but there was no drama and it was just a very awkward moment caught on a national broadcast in the age of takes and the lack of nuance. And also in the middle of a pandemic where everybody's stuck at home, there's nothing else going on, and this is providing us some quality entertainment for that time. And yet, the damage was done, or at least the perception was set. The clip became one of the moments of Draft Night 2020. I'll tell you about another one shortly though. It briefly overshadowed his professional milestone for just a little bit. In Crimson Rose, already known in some sports circles as the former girlfriend of Atlanta Hawks player Trae Young, found herself vilified all over the internet. So you might be wondering, what happened to them after that? Well, truthfully, despite that night, they stayed together for a little bit afterwards. They didn't feed into the rumors or let that define their relationship, especially because they both knew what it was. But it does appear that they broke up either in late 2021 or early 2022. And that moment was probably one of the more polarizing moments of what it's like to be a part of the roller coaster that is being the significant other of someone in the spotlight. Now, let's talk about that other moment from the 2020 draft that reminds me of the conflict that can occur between his mama and his girlfriend. So who's more important, his girl or his mama? It's a quiet question that hangs in the air every time draft weekend comes around. When a player's lifelong dream comes true, the two women who've likely poured into him the most often reach for him at the same time. And just like that, what's usually kept private becomes a viral moment. We saw this play out in 2020 when Isaiah Wilson was drafted by the Tennessee Titans. As he sat in his living room, overcome with emotion, his then girlfriend, Grace Barnett or Grace Bennett, reports vary, was wrapped around him, sitting on his lap, arms tight, filling up the majority of the frame. But then came his mama. First a tap, Grace didn't move, then with a pull, because Grace still wasn't moving. So his mom physically had to remove Grace from her son in the shot. And just like that, cue the commentary. It was the same night that CeeDee Lamb and his girlfriend went viral, so you know Twitter was already cutting up. When Isaiah finally addressed it on the Bussin' with the Boys podcast, he said flatly that Grace should have read the room and confirmed that his mom had already warned her multiple times before stepping in. Now fast forward to 2024. Olu Fashanu, drafted by the New York Jets, had a very similar moment occur, this time from his family's home in Maryland. According to the Daily Mail, quote, Fashanu's mother grabs him first and does not relent any space from her son for anyone. His girlfriend tries to get close, quote, with little to no success. One line from the article summed it up perfectly. Quote, what ensued was power struggle to touch Fashanu. Even though Olu wasn't at the live draft, the clip went everywhere. People joked that his mama had elite offensive lineman level blocking skills, and maybe that's where he got it from. Meanwhile, the girlfriend, believed to be seated just to his right, looked awkward, boxed out of a major milestone. However, to be fair, there was a brief hug between the two women later, suggesting that there was no real beef between them. But this isn't just about overbearing mothers or girlfriends doing the most. It's about dominance hierarchies. Who gets emotional priority in a moment of transformation? For many Black families, the mother has earned that front row seat. She's the one that took him to practice. She's the one that packed the meals. She's the one that prayed over him. She's the one that paid his dues so he could play this game that he loves so much. She's the one that pushed him, which led to the success that he is seeing in that moment. She is the one that made these sacrifices. So when her son gets drafted, it's her moment too. And then you enter the girlfriend. Sometimes she's new, sometimes she's white or not black, and she's proud, she's supportive, she feels a part of this journey. But if she doesn't read the room right, baby, she risks stepping into a space that may not fully belong to her yet. And when those instincts clash, the camera doesn't lie, and we see it all. Because what the draft really exposes is how love, family, and fame don't always blend seamlessly. These moments show us what happens when a man's personal life collides with his public appearance, when success becomes a contested space where everyone wants some acknowledgement, but the spotlight can only shine in one place at a time. And sometimes the real show of love is knowing when to step back. But that's not always easy, especially when you thought you were stepping into forever. Which brings us to Russell Wilson and the woman who sat beside him on draft night. Before there was Ciara, there was Ashton Meem, Russell Wilson's high school sweetheart and first wife. On the night of the 2012 NFL Draft, Russell wasn't a top pick, and he wasn't in New York City with the other first-round hopefuls. Instead, he was in his uncle's basement in Washington, D.C., surrounded by family, friends, and Ashton. The two had just gotten married 3 months earlier in January of that year. When the Seattle Seahawks called his name in the third round, emotion flooded the room. In the video footage from that night, Ashton is seated beside him, hugging and cheering him on as he takes the call that would change their lives. But what made that clip memorable wasn't Russell, it was her reaction. Folks online couldn't resist clowning her for it because why was that her face? Why was she that excited? I mean, I get why she was excited, but it was very exciting for her. Clearly. Unfortunately, that energy didn't last long. Just 2 years later, in April 2014, Russell filed for divorce. He shared a brief statement through the Seahawks asking for privacy but offering no explanation. But the internet didn't need one because the rumors were already flying. The word on the street was that Ashton had an affair with Russell's then teammate, wide receiver Golden Tate. Both Ashton and Golden, however, denied these claims publicly, of course, but the rumors stuck around longer than the marriage did. Russell never addressed it, and honestly, he didn't have to. He moved on and married Ciara, and most people forgot he had even been married before. I mean, truthfully, if you marry Ciara, you don't need to have married anyone else. Does anybody else truly matter? Yeah. But still, that draft night clip was a reminder of what can happen when personal relationships intersect with professional milestones. Russell and Ashton weren't viral in the way couples are now, but their moment foreshadowed just how public and picked apart these relationships could become. And speaking of public and picked apart, you already know that all eyes this year will be on Travis Hunter and his fiancée, Leanna Lenee. Travis Hunter and Leanna Lenee's relationship is a textbook Gen Z love story. In 2022, Travis slid into her DMs while still in a relationship, mind you, but according to Leanna, things didn't move forward until he and the ex were done. Quote, "I don't do homewrecking. I'm not a side piece. I support women. I would never do that to another woman," she said. Soon after, they made it Instagram official, shared a kiss in Hawaii, and have been putting their relationship front and center ever since. Before a lot of folks, especially millennials and older, that's the problem. Because what could have been a quiet, personal relationship between two young adults has become something else entirely. A relationship unfolding under constant public surveillance. And that scrutiny is more than just messy comments. It's a collision of parasocial relationships, aka when people feel entitled to access and judge others' private lives, social media overexposure, and respectability politics, especially for young Black couples navigating wealth and fame. And draft night, you already know everybody is going to be watching, not just to see what position Travis is going to end up playing and where he lands, whether that's with the Cleveland Browns with Joe Flacco and Kenny Pickett at the helm, or if a surprise team like the New York Giants or Jacksonville Jaguars take him. They'll be watching her too, to see what Leanna wears, how she reacts, and whether she behaves in the way the public believes a supportive NFL girlfriend or wife should. But why is there so much investment in their relationship? Why do we care so much about what they do? Well, it's because Travis Hunter isn't just talented, he's exceptional. He's 21, poised to become a household name, and about to step into a level of wealth, access, and influence that could transform everyone around him, including Leanna. And the road to that transformation hasn't always been easy. Now, let's walk through what they're up against. One, it's the battle between the algorithm and their authenticity. Leanna's social media presence has made her a target from day one. A joke about having, quote, tequila in her veins while Travis abstains from alcohol? Clock. An old video of her dancing with another man? It's labeled as a red flag. The judgment became so intense that they deactivated their Instagram accounts. But this is a prime example of digital surveillance culture, where ordinary actions are amplified into moral commentary, especially when you're a young woman beside a rising star. Now, number two, they're dealing with rumors, receipts, and the court of public opinion. When those alleged Snapchats of Leanna with another man surfaced, the backlash was swift. Alongside accusations of being a gold digger, the narrative snowballed. Instead of responding, Travis deactivated his account. But once people think they know your story, facts don't always matter. The couple was forced to play defense, which I'm sure Travis wasn't trying to do off the field. Number three, transparency can be used as a trap. So Travis and Leanna have a YouTube channel, and it was supposed to be fun, a peek into their lives and the journey of wedding planning. But in the age of content as intimacy, every moment becomes evidence. Like when Leanna accidentally told Travis, "I love you," while heading out with friends, it became a debate about control and maturity and loyalty. This is the double-edged sword of performative openness. People say they want authenticity until they see something that they can tear apart. Number four, they're growing up on camera. Like, Travis is 21, Leanna is 23. He's preparing for marriage, the NFL, fame, and enormous responsibility all at once. Add the fact that you are in your early 20s, you're barely not a teenager anymore, and now you have all this weight on top of it. Oof, it's just a lot. It's a lot for anyone, let alone a couple still just trying to figure themselves out. People are right to wonder if it's too much too soon, but sometimes we forget that they're probably wondering the same thing too. Number five, their family dynamics are under the microscope. After Travis won the Heisman, all eyes were on Leanna, and not in a good way. She didn't stand up when his name was announced, prompting backlash. Reports say that Deion Sanders had to nudge her to clap. Now, Leanna explained that she was just mirroring Travis's mother, who also didn't stand. Quote, Leanna later explained that she wanted the focus to be on Travis and his family, not herself. She said she was emotional and did not want to be in the camera shot, but was genuinely happy for him. But in a moment meant to be joyful, she became the story. It's a classic case of respectability politics, where Black women and women of color are judged harshly for how they should act in public. And number six, there seems to be no off switch in their relationship. From how they met to what she wears to wedding dress fittings, nothing is off limits. But once you're that visible, privacy can become an illusion, and the pressure to maintain an image can feel more important than protecting your peace. But still, through it all, Travis has stood by her. He said, quote, "Y'all hate on me and then y'all go hate on my girl. I feel the same pain that she feel. We're inseparable." And after the draft, they're getting married next month on May 24th in Tennessee. And unless something shifts, Leanna will be right by his side on draft night, as she's been through it all. But the real question isn't just, will Travis Hunter be a top pick and what position is he going to end up playing? It's, what's the cost of loving someone on the verge of greatness? And all runners, that concludes another episode of I'll Tell You What. This week, we stepped inside the most emotionally charged night in sports, the NFL draft. Not just to talk stats or positions or picks, but to examine what it reveals about love, loyalty, and public perception. From CeeDee Lamb's lightning fast phone snatch to the silent tug of war between mamas and girlfriends. From Russell Wilson's quiet first marriage to the media frenzy courtship of Travis and Leanna, we're seeing how draft night becomes more than a career milestone. It becomes a relationship test, a cultural mirror, a viral moment waiting to happen. The camera might be focused on the athlete, but sometimes the real story is often sitting right beside him. So if you enjoyed this episode, please let me know. Be sure to SFRS, like I said, and don't forget new episodes now are dropping on Tuesdays. So come back and I'll see you in the pews.